So firstly, ladies and gentlemen, before we do the photos, I want to welcome our absolute boxing legend champion, all the way from Bethnal Green. It's the one and only Mr. John H. Stracey! Big old boxing legend there, back in the 1970s, smashing up everyone right through that decade. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, going to our next legend of the evening. He's the notorious gangland boss. It's the one and only Eddie Richardson!
What I'd like to ask you is, your brother, Charlie, what happened? Because I know you had a bit of a fallout.
Well, we're going back to the 1960s. So you've got to remember that people never had these. They was unheard of. So people had to look after themselves in them days much more than what they do today. Anyway, now I've just got that little bit so you understand what we're talking about. Yes, I broke up my brother. He got nicked for receiving and he didn't want to face the charge. So he was on £1,000 bail and 2 securities for £1,000. One was a friend and one was the milkman. Anyway. We're talking about the 60s when £1,000 was a bit of money, you know, meant something. Anyway, Charlie, he's got a new girlfriend, right? I go in on a Monday morning. The yard has been cleared out of metal, so I've got the 2 people who stood bail for him round on my plate as well. So I thought I'd get some money off the people that we supply with metal, something on account from them. Bring them up. Charlie's already been in, had lumps of them. So he went away with a small fortune to Canada. I didn't know he went to Canada at the time, I didn't know. Anyway, he goes out there, he bought a business, went skiing, and about 12 months later, come back. I welcomed him back like the prodigal son, because, you know, I was pleased to have him back. But after that, we just could not get on, right? Because I've been running the business, got it all flowing, got it all going again, paid off the people and everyone else, and anyway, I finished up walking out of there with nothing, right? I just walked out, I'd had enough of it, and opened up a little walk round bargain store in Deptford, because there was a lot of long-firm stuff about, you know, what you could buy cheap. So I made a little walk round bargain store, and that's where I started off. And then after that, Fraser come over to see me, and to thank me for putting it on these people that beat up Jimmy Brindle. Jimmy Brindle was married to Fraser's sister. So he thought we'd done it for Jimmy Brindle. We never done it for Jimmy Brindle. Our driver was outside that pub, waiting for the pub to close so he could get the beer and the spirits, what we'd ordered, to take back to the party where we was. Anyway, Brindle ran out of the pub away from this little mob, about 6-handed, and trying to get away from him, he jumped in the car, what was outside. Well, they dragged him up and beat him up, but they also dragged our driver out and beat him up. There was nothing to do with him. Anyway, he came back to the party with black eyes and all that, so we said, right, where would they be? Newton Reform Club, which is at the Elephant. So we go down there. Anyway, we finish up, 6 of them spark out on the floor in the club, right? And then we go home and everyone's happy. So Fraser thought we'd done this for Jimmy Brindle, but it was really for our driver we done it anyway. That was a long time ago in the 1960s. Anyway, that's how it was in them days.
Yeah. The other thing, Eddie, that people often say is that I mean, I know it's not true, but a lot of people say that you tried to be alongside the Krays, but in some ways that wasn't true, was it? You sort of...
Not at all, no. I was never worried about
the
Krays. Never bothered me one little bit. They did want a meeting with us. We did have a meeting at the Elephant and Castle in a pub there. They come over, I think Johnny Nash arranged it. Anyway, after about 10 minutes or so, I thought to myself, what am I doing here? It's a waste of time, I've got other things to do. So I went out. Charlie stayed a little bit longer with them, but I don't want to be too nasty with them, but they was brainless. I used to read gangster books.
Say what
They
you mean,
wanted
then.
to be gangsters, and they wanted the publicity. I never ever wanted any publicity, trying to be low profile, trying to get a pound note. That was all.
Yeah, because
the difference.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you were doing things obviously to rival them, but you didn't. You wanted to sort of stay underground a little bit and not let everybody know. So that's how you were doing it. I think the Krays wanted that publicity, didn't they? They needed that.
I finished up. I was in the when Fraser come round. He told me he had some machines, right? Some fruit machines with Joe Wilkins. So I said, well, what you doing with your harp? He said, well, Joe's looking after them at the moment. I said, do you want to go and get them back? He said, well, I wouldn't mind. I said, come on in, we go over there. We went over there, see Joe Wilkins, get half of the machines back. He's old, right? And then I formed a company, Landing Machines, and started in Soho because Fraser was friendly with Albert Dimes. Albert Dimes was a big man in Soho at the time. Everyone went to Albert, all the arguments, the Greeks had arguments with the Turkish or something like that, and that. All went round to Albert, sorted all these problems out. It was like a League of Nations in his betting shop. So he knew everyone in Soho, and it was like a little village at the time. So he was an ideal man, Albert. I used to say, Albert, there's an Italian restaurant or Italian club down there that had got a couple of machines in. Any chance of getting out in? He used to ring them up, say, look, I'll take them machines out. I've got 2 friends of mine going to put 2 new machines in for you. It was as simple as that. So we had loads of machines, you know, sites. We had a lot of sites, more than we could afford to buy the machines for sometimes. Used to take them out of one that wasn't doing too well, put them in somewhere where it was. Anyway, it was thriving, and there was a lot of other things going on in the West End at the time, like film clubs and things like that, which we was controlling anyway. So it was, you know, thriving business. The twins wanted to open up a film club in the West End. So they sent over Ronnie Olive and Freddie Foreman, right? Come over, see us, said, look, we want to open up, and blah, blah, and all that. So I said, you don't think we shut all them other fucking ones down so you can open one up, do you? So that was the end of that. So the twins couldn't get in the West End. They wasn't in the West End at all, right? And then, unfortunately, I went down to a club in Catford, and I got shot. My friend over there got shot. Harry Rawlins got shot. Dickie Hart, who had a 45, he got shot with his own gun. He's one killed him. Everyone else got injured. Fraser got shot in the thigh, broke his leg with a 45. It's a big bullet. Big gun, big bullet. Anyway, so we're all nicked for a fray, and also we're all in hospital. I got shot. Right?
That's where you normally go when you're shot.
That is when Ronnie Kray went over the next night after that and shot George Cornell. That was the next night. Couldn't believe their luck. All us out of the game. And that's what happened. Got brave enough to go over and shoot Cornell. Unfortunately, Cornell knew him very well. He was brought up with him. He had a fight with Ronnie Dunham, and if you see him in the pub, he used to puff him off. You know, so if they was going to do anything about anyone, they had to start with George, really, and that's what happened. So anyway, that was unfortunate. George wasn't working for me; he was working for my brother Charlie at the time. Anyway, there's loads of stories about different things. So I think now, if anyone wants to ask any questions,
Can I just say something that happened to me when I was a little kid?
yeah.
No, this is quite important because he's talking about Ronnie killing, Cornell. Well, where I lived in Bethnal Green, well, Whitechapel as you come around, was Collingwood Estate. And just about 120 yards was the Blind Beggar. And as a young lad, I was 15 years of age, sitting on the grass outside. And then we heard this this police car go by, and then it stopped at the end. And then a little while later, the ambulance stopped at the end. So we ran up there, literally ran up about 120 yards. Everybody was spilled out on the pavement. And we're all going, what happened? What's happened? What's happened? And of course, that was the night when he shot Georgie Cornell. And no one was saying anything about it at all. Anyway, the next day, I go to school and I'm with Gary Craig, because he was in my class at school, the son of Charlie. And he actually told me what happened. But he said, and this is true, he said, whatever you do, he said, whatever you do, don't say nothing. So 3 years have gone by, and when I used to do my after dinner speaking and stuff like that, people would say, did you ever say something? I said, well, if I did, I wouldn't fucking be here, would I? But that was true, that's a true story. So anyway, look, you're just one quick thing.
I know the twins very well, actually.
He was in prison with one of them, wasn't you?
I was in prison with both of them. I was in prison with both of them. Actually, Charlie and all. So at one time, Charlie was in Long Larton and Reggie was, right? And they let Ronnie out to have a visit. So I had them all there. But before that, Reggie, he was all right. He was quite a nice guy, Reggie, to be quite honest. He was gully like his brother, but he didn't come out till very late, And when they made that film, The Legend, they made Reggie Kray the governor of the two twins, which was absolute rubbish. Ronnie was the governor. And they also said that girl Shay that he married, Reggie Kray married, he never ever consummated the marriage with her. And the Shay family was there on the red carpet protesting, which, was about the film, because it was a load of rubbish, making him heterosexual, talking about having kids with the girl, when he never even consummated the marriage with her. So, you know, there's lots of history with me and the twins, and Reggie Kray was with me quite a while, actually. He was with me in Parkhurst. But before that, they was in the hospital wing. Reggie Kray and Ronnie Kray was in the hospital wing. And they used to come out on exercise. By then, I'd done quite a bit of my bird, and I was in the compound stores. Stuff come into the prison, and we delivered it to various different departments. It was a nice, cushy, little easy job. But when they come out on exercise, they come out on the compound. First thing they done was come round to where I worked, in the compound stores. So, is Eddie there? You know, and I used to come out and get some of them out a cup of tea, and I used to suffer them for a little while, you know. Because they didn't really have a lot of conversation. There was 2 lost sheep in prison. I can understand it. I mean, I've got a date, I'm coming home. So my mind is outside prison, I'm thinking of things. But they haven't, have they? So it's very difficult for someone like that, I suppose, you know, to sort of settle down. And they don't really know the prison culture, so it was difficult for them. I'm not making excuses for them, but, you know, you can understand it. Right.
Just one other question. Did you think, you know, the film, The Krays,
Right?
the Kray film, right? Did you think that sort of was a lot like them, or do you think it was?
I never had any trouble with the twins. With Reggie Kray or the other one, they never fancied having a row with me, right? So I never had any problem that way with them at all. Once, Reggie Kray had a bone to pick with John Duddy. John Duddy got nicked with Harry Roberts. You know, they shot the 3 coppers. So he was a sergeant in the army out in the Mau Mau. And so was Harry Roberts. They were both sergeants, you know. And they offered John Duddy to stay on there, you know, and Harry Roberts stay on. They make them commission officers if they stay on in the Rhodesian army. Anyway, they decided to come back, peeled up out their heads, and they shot 2 coppers, didn't they, and run one over. So, you know, that was a problem. But he was quite a nice fella. So, anyway.
The one who got shot?
John Duddy, Harry Roberts was a lovely guy. Quite talented boy as well. But anyway, he used to paint, he used to make models, do all sorts of things. But he was a good friend of mine. He's out now, actually. Harry Roberts is out now, eventually. But John Duddy said something about his brother being a puff or something, and Reggie Kray to have a bone to pick with him. And so what we done, we left them in the television room, right, in Leicester prison, blocked it off and let them, you know, sort out their own problems. Anyway, they did have a fight. Eventually, Reggie Kray was on the top, right, and it was going on for a little while, and after a time I thought, enough's enough, you know, he was getting on old Duddy, you know. So I went in there and got hold of him and pulled him off. Right, I was the only one in there that could have pulled him off without having a row.
I enjoyed that.
I'm just giving you a few examples.
Carry on then.
Oh, carry on.
Anyway,
Pulled him off, go on.
Go on, what you were doing and let it back on.
Anyway, so let's just define a couple of. Can take a few.
The audience might have a lot of questions to ask.
Yeah, that's what I said. We're going to do that now.
Shall we go to them?
Yeah. Does anyone would like to ask our guest of honour tonight a lovely question? That was his nickname because they always said he didn't know when he was going to go off, and that's how he got his name. I knew him as a young lad boxing. He boxed for West Ham in them days, and I boxed for St George's. And then he turned professional, like you said. He went over to America, and he was under Angelo Dundee. And Angelo Dundee absolutely thought the world of him. But I think what happened, he got one of the what do they call them? The gang, you know, the people out there, the mafia. Yeah, he got one of the daughters pregnant, and he come back to England, and that's a true story. But he used to train in our gym at the Canning Town, Royal Oak, and he was, yeah. But as you say, very, very loyal.
But the only thing was where someone gave him a bit of gear, no matter what it was, he would take it. So he used to be out of his head sometimes, you know, but it was, other than that, it was a pretty good goal.
You had a skirmish or a fight with Freddie Foreman at the recent funeral of...
Freddie Foreman?
Yeah, this is a funeral. Tommy...
Freddie
Krays
Foreman was a complete fucking wank. He's been on telly saying that he held a gun to my fucking head. Fucking absolute lie. He knows in them days I'd have them stuff. And he knows that. Anyway, I see him at Tommy Wisby's funeral, right? I'm sitting in a pew, you know, well down in the pew. And he went and sat on the end of the pew and said, "Hello, Ed." I said, "Hello." I really give it to him, right? She stopped the funeral, didn't they? Well, I really give it to him. And then he got up and fucked off. So I went back after all this, go back to the wake. I thought we might turn up there. You know what I mean? I might be 85, but I'd have fucking seen him. Anyway, so I get back and he never come to the wake. He never showed his face at the wake because he knew I was there and I was waiting for him. But when I got moved to Leicester prison, right? Me and Reggie Kray got shanghaied out of Parkhurst, what was a lovely prison, right? I mean, all nice people there, train robbers, Harry Roberts, people like that, all good people. And so, we get shanghaied out, so you don't know where you're going, but you know you're going to another security wing. I'm handcuffed to him. So after a time, I said, I think we're going back to Leicester. Now, I've lost a lot of remission at Leicester. I lost 450 days remission. Right? People used to lose a week and they'd be crying their eyes out. So, I mean, I did tie up the PTI, tried to escape there and all that. So, I mean, I wasn't good for it. But, and I'm smashed cells up and all sorts of things, you know. So I did lose a lot of remission there. Then I got moved to Parkhurst, right? They changed the visiting room there. And we all agreed that everyone's going to smash the visiting room up because it's the only security wing where you've got a big petition. Who's first to ever visit me? Right? So my wife turns up. I've been shanghaied in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. Me and Reggie Kray, we're handcuffed together. When we knew we was going to Leicester, I said, we're definitely going to Leicester. So he said, the Lambriani brothers are here, Ed. He said, you know they're two grasses? I said, are they? I'm only thinking of having a tear up and might get moved out, you know. Because my brother's been there in the meantime and put a pot of shit and piss over the PO's head, right? I'm already the bad boy there, and I'm going back there. So I said, right, I'll make one with you, but he's well pleased, Reggie. Oh, thanks, Ed, thanks. Right, when we get there, they're not there. So, but Foreman is there, Freddie Foreman. So I said, this fucking visiting room, I said, we're not standing for that. If you all stick together, you get what you want in the nick, you know. Especially in security rooms, I don't want the publicity. But all this lot of wankers they put in, including Foreman, you know. He said to me, if you get a good screw in, he lets your kids come round. I don't get good fucking screws, you know what I mean? So it's out the window for me anyway. So that, you know, just give you an example of what a wanker he was. So,
to talk about tonight is the Krays. When you were 16, they came up to your gym with Tony Burns.
No, Tony was the trainer.
Yeah, Tony Burns was your trainer at Repton. I'm going to hand it over to Colin because this is a very fascinating story because you were still amateur. You were due to fight in the Olympic Games in Mexico City. And the Krays turned up, they wanted to manage you. And they were quite bullyish. And this is very fascinating. So please, over to you.
Yeah, and then we'll take some boxing questions as well.
Yeah, no, what happened when I was about 17, 1967, I was doing quite well. And I got a phone call from Tony Burns, who sadly just not long died. He was my old trainer. And he asked me to go up there. Before we started training in August, but before that he said, I want you to come up. So I said, why? He said, I want you to do something. So I went up there, and the twins were there, and with the brother Charlie, and of course another big lad, I can't remember his name. And Tony just said to me, look, he said, they want to manage you. And what? He said, they want something to do with you. He said, but the fella you're going to spar, he said, just knock him out. He said, just bang him. So this guy, I whacked a guy called Johnny Hipman. I gave him a good hiding. And he went down, then he got up, went down again, and then they told him to go to the dressing room. So he went down the dressing room, and Tony just said to me, go on, go get changed. And while I was down there, that's what he said to me. So I said to him, you're not a very good boxer, you won't be very good. He said, what? He said, I'm not worried about me. You know, they want to look after you. Like. So my bottle went, oh, fuck, I don't want that. So I ran upstairs and we was talking, and this is absolute fact. Ronnie said to me, he said, look, he said, we want to look after you. He said, but first of all, we want to ask you, how much do you earn a week? Now, I was working in a stock exchange as a messenger. And I said, well, I get £10 a week. And he went, okay. And I said, but I'll get luncheon vouchers as well. 15 bob a week. So he said, okay. And Ronnie looked at Reggie, and he wasn't said anything. And he just said, okay, well, we'll give you 300 quid a week to train. Now, could you imagine what that would have been? 300 quid from earning £10 a week. So, like I say, I didn't want that. So I said, oh, can I let you know? And they said, yeah. And I said, look, I want to try and box in the Olympics if I can. And then, but that won't be till next year. Yeah, that's all right, we don't mind. And I went, yeah, but I might not want to go pro till late. Yeah, that's all right. And everything they were saying, I thought, how am I going to get out of this? Anyway, in the end, Tony just said to me, look, don't worry about it, we'll sort everything out. But as we know, the year in 68, they got, banged up, and in 69 they went down. So obviously nothing, I didn't have to go with them. And I was pleased with that. And as I say, I used to go to school with Garin, and I knew them. But I always think to myself, when I went to see him in prison, they was all saying, oh, you're doing well, you're doing marvellous, you could be a champion. I just won a British title. And then I swung it on them, and I just said, you know what, if you hadn't gone to prison, you know, for what happened, I said, you would have been my manager. And they went, oh, fuck, yeah, I didn't think of that. So I got out of it that way, you know, swung it the other way. But yeah, no, I didn't want to be managed by them. But as I said, I grew up in the East End, seeing that thing at the Blind Beggar, and of course I was in same class as Gary Kray, Charlie Kray's son, and we used to go to school together. So you know, I didn't know the Krays very well.
Dave Courtney works for the police.
Yeah, that's right. I want to know, yeah. That's what I want to know.
Big smokes! Big fucking smokes!
Ian, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go on then.
I love documentaries. I grew up in South East London. I'm only 39, but I'm more back into the old days because my granddad and all that used to knock about in Deptford. Funny enough, my uncle had a snooker club. Not long after that club called Smithy's got shut down because I know something happened there. But I always wanted to know, what was Frankie Fraser really like? It seemed like
Fraser?
he seemed.
Frank Fraser was a very loyal person, right? I'm not saying he had any fucking brains. He got more money with me than he's ever had in his life. And if he was alive, he would tell you that. But, you know, he was, I would say, come, we're going somewhere, we've got to sort someone out. Jumped straight in the motor, never argued about anything like that, you know.
He seemed like
So
the
he
sort
was
of guy.
sound, very sound man and loyal.
Yeah, he seemed straight down the middle. If you needed help, he seemed like that sort of guy. You know?
Yeah.
He wouldn't stab you in the back, basically. You know, he'd be with you.
But he didn't know anything about business and things like that, you know, so, you know, that was it.
Right, let's have a little bit. A lot of questions. Any questions at the back or anyone here? Oh, back to this lady here. She's got another question.
Who would you say that you had the most respect for out of that fraternity?
Yeah.
Well, there is one man that I would like to have in my corner if I was in a bit of trouble, and that was Billy Williams, right? I used to call him Bill the Bomb. He was you know, unfortunately, he didn't have a character to go with it, but he was a hard man and tough guy, and you know, and he was a good friend of mine, and so I was away in prison with him. When he started off, he went to America because friends of ours knew the Dundee brothers, and they sent him out there to America. But he got in a bit of trouble over here, and he had 13 fights in America and won them all, heavyweight fights. He had an exhibition with Muhammad Ali, and he had an exhibition with I can't think of the other guy. He was world champion at one time, Ellis. So I was in prison at the time, in old prison, and Bill used to write to me, and he sent me a photograph of Muhammad Ali saying to Eddie, all the best and all that, you know. I had loads of stuff like that. I don't know what happened to all this gear, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen
But I used to get moved out of prisons all the time. I had 6 laydowns, what they call laydowns. There was a bit of trouble in the prison. I used to be first to get moved out. They moved out anyone who they thought had a bit of influence. So I had 3 laydowns at Durham. You're there for about 6 weeks. You don't know if you're going to go back to the same nick or a different one, you know. And I had 2 in Bristol prison, and I had 1 in Liverpool prison. Liverpool was an absolute Gazi. Liverpool prison. I'm there, right? I haven't actually done anything wrong. I've just got moved out because there's a bit of trouble in the prison. Anyway, I'm in the joking block down there, and I said to the screw, we're going on exercise. He said, yes, yeah, you'll be going in a minute. Anyway, eventually they come and take me on exercise, right? I walk out into this little room, you know. I said, we going on exercise and what? He said, you're on it. This little room was no bigger than the cell.
I think Krays are more infamous in society because they talked more with their associates than you and your brother did.
What, when they was inside?
Just in
Oh, they're
society.
saying to talk more. I don't understand the question.
Just in general.
Oh.
So
Yes, they loved the publicity.
Right, got it.
They loved the publicity, so they did do things like that. They wanted to be up front, you know. I suppose there was a lot of people around them getting a living off of them. You know, they had that club, the Double R, but they wasn't really getting anything out of it, but a lot of other people was. You know, using their name and this and that. The only one who I think who never really was Freddie Foreman. But they used him, Freddie Foreman. Used him more than he used them. He was the only one.
Right, next question. Who would like to ask a question? Stick your hand up and I'll come over to you. I'll bring the microphone over, a lot easier. Here we go, love. Don't spit on it.
I'll try not to. So, if we say throughout your career that you've had, what would you say was the highlight of your career? Tonight, obviously.
I was a worker, right? I mean, I had metal companies, nightclubs, I had all sorts of things, you know, business-wise. I had machines in the West End and, you know, I had loads of different businesses. I finished up with at Greenwich. I had a metal company, right, at Greenwich, and we was the sole contractor for the Thames Barrier. My company was the sole scrap contractor. I had 32 skips, both sides of the river, and skip lorries picking them up and this and that. So I've been a grafter. You know, I mean, I've never let anyone take a liberty with me or, you know, I've always stood my ground, but I was, you know, getting a pound note. That was basically what we was doing.
We all love a pound note.
Yes, yes. Well, if you've got expensive tastes, you've got to be a getter.
That's it, it's all about the money. Next question.
Eddie, you mentioned the fact that the Legends film wasn't correct in
It was absolute rubbish because they said that Reggie Kray was the governor of the two twins, which was lies. He was going to have babies with a girl when he never consummated the marriage. And also, that, you know, Ronnie Kray was the governor of the two of them. Absolute. On his own, Reggie Kray was quite a mild, nice man.
Yeah.
He wasn't a nasty man at all.
No. So what I wanted to ask you was, in the actual original film, The Craze, what was your thoughts
I
on
didn't
that
give
one?
a monkey about the Krays.
No.
No, not at all.
Did you know that
No.
John
When they wanted to
trained...
try and get in the West End, I said, no, you don't think we shut all them other films, don't let us do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, basically, I wasn't afraid of them at all. And there wasn't a danger to me. But when we all got shot, that's when they got brave enough to go and kill George Cornell. You've got to remember, in them days, people didn't run to the police. So they never got even nicked for that, did they? Things that we done, we never got nicked for, because no one ran to the police and told them. Everyone looked after themselves. No phones, no mobile phones. Cameras on the corners and all that. There was none of that then. We're going back in the 60s.
Yeah. And Eddie, the guy sitting next to you, John H., the former world champion, did you know that he trained
John has been a good friend of
brothers
mine
for the
for
film?
over 40 years, right? I used to have a nightclub in Catford, and John was a regular visitor there. Yeah, so me and John are good friends, yeah.
Oh no, we didn't get up to nothing. Don't worry about that.
What was the club called there? Right. Just gonna next question.
Oh, Gill.
Oh, yeah.
We know what happened.
That was
No. Trying to get things sorted out.
Anyway, just to educate everybody here, Jay Arthurs was a bit of Cockney rhyming slang. You know that. But anyway, I'm talking about that. This is a serious question, Eddie. Now I know you kind of fell out with Charlie, your brother, your blood brother, and that's. But the sentence, I want to know your opinion. The sentence that Charlie got for what he was alleged or charged with at the Old Bailey, the sentence for the charges, I thought at the time was a diabolical liberty, was so long, many years, 28 or 26 years or whatever it was. What is your opinion? I mean, in this day and age...
I'll tell you the reason why it was so bad, right? Because Charlie was going with a girl called Jean Lagrange, right? Whose uncle was a member of BOSS, which was a secret society in South Africa. Charlie's invested a lot of money out there, trying to get a bit of diamond nicholas ground. He finished up with nothing. He finished up, and the guy had a lot of money off him. I'm talking about a fortune. He could have bought 4 streets of houses with the money what he sent out there. Anyway, he was having an affair with Jean Lagrange. So, he was doing a bit of spying for her. She was asking, so he was getting people to break into places like Christian Action, nicking all their files, you know, and that was all going back, you know. So MI5 was at the back of the court. I didn't know anything about this because I wasn't working with him or had anything to do with him, what he was doing. And that was the reason. They was at the back of the court and they had a licence to do what they liked. We had a cooking judge, everyone, whatever anyone said, I was going to make it true. That was the reason why we got way off, you know. So fierce, yeah.
Thank you. Right, let's move on to our next question.